I'm like, yeah. All right, I think we are live. Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast. I am super excited for you all to meet Annie Franceschi. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but when I was reading, I'm sure I only read like a little sliver of the things that you have actually done. I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is so cool. So, Annie, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, how you got to do what you have done, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you so much for having me. When I saw like Purpose and Pixie Dust, I was like, I am in. I am 100% in. I
Love it.
am a lifelong Disney fan, and I did used to work for the company. So, a very short version of my story is I grew up loving Disney movies, the Muppets in particular, really wanted to be in the film industry. And so I did what you have to do, which is I moved. I moved from North Carolina to LA and had a career in the film industry, kind of worked my way up to a dream job at Disney, literally at the Walt Disney Studios, helping tell stories for movies like Maleficent and Cinderella. And I realized once I got that job that it was just a dream job and not a dream life. So 10 years ago, this September, I quit that job, moved back home, and reinvented myself as an entrepreneur. So now I have a company called Greatest Story Creative, and I help you brand, streamline, and grow your greatest business, not the one everybody is telling you to have.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that such a big part of your story is that love for Disney and it led you to working there and you're like and it was like a stepping stone for me and then I was okay with leaving that behind. So what exactly did you do for them when you say that you were working on those stories?
Right. So my first role actually at Disney was working at Walt Disney Animation, and I was the assistant to all the directors and producers of a film that did not get made, which is how I left that first position. It was a movie called King of the Elves. You can Google it and learn all about it, but it was supposed to come
Cool.
out, and 6 months into the project, they shut it down, and I was without a job. But it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I got recruited to a brand new team at the time, which was their franchise management team. And so Disney at the studio, I think it's now been reintegrated into a different team. But at the time, I was a founding member of this group that it was their job to help coordinate all the product development, but really to communicate about upcoming films way earlier than when marketing would be able to spend time on them. So people don't realize it takes years and years to make some of these films. And we have to be talking about them as a company years and years before they come out. And marketing doesn't have bandwidth to touch that until like maybe a year, maybe 18 months before the movie's coming out. So what do you do when you have to tell a story and you don't want to inundate the filmmakers? Well, you have a little team that interfaces with that filmmaker, gets to know the story, reads the script, and puts together a pitch deck. So that really became my job. I kind of got seen and known for my ability to write and design, and kind of tell this cohesive story. And so my VP bosses were having me write presentations for like Comic-Con for our president of production, still a president of production, Sean Bailey, and other executives to go present at D23, Comic-Con, things like that. So I would have to read the script for like Maleficent, Cinderella, Frankenweenie, John Carter, movies like Tomorrowland. I don't know if you saw that. This is like we're going deep in the
Uh-uh.
Disney canon here.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
Damon Lindelof wrote that. So I had to take a Damon Lindelof script who wrote Lost and some of these other really complicated films and make a 30-minute presentation deck that didn't give away the whole story, but made sense, and gave away some of the mystery. And he liked it enough that he did it. So he used my pitch to talk about the film. So I was like, all right,
Oh,
this is
cool.
pretty amazing. But yeah, it was
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
incredible.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about your transition to building your own thing.
Yes.
Was it just like a one time, like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move, we're stopping this chapter, or were you kind of working on that behind the scenes while you were still working your corporate job?
It was kind of the latter, and the thing is, if you're curious like why on earth would Annie quit a dream job at Disney? It sounds amazing. It was amazing. It is still my favorite company on the planet. And if you want the full answer to this, I've written my first book. I have written two books actually, but my first book is called Permission to Try, and it is a pep talk to anybody who's thinking about giving up something good, to hopefully get to a life that is great. And you don't know what's going to happen. And the spoiler alert is you have to give yourself permission to try. And I share a lot of insider baseball and stories of this year, like to your question, this year of thought that I went through of, well, what do I want? Like I've gotten the thing, I'm kind of finally on this track. I went through the toxic managers and the corporate America and all that still exists at Disney. And I got to this path. I was like, okay, I finally got this. Like, is this fulfilling? Is this what I really want? And I looked around and went, this is not enough. Like, this is not as impactful as I thought it would be. So I spent about a year of deliberation. And at first it felt like, would I be crazy to like quit this job and leave LA and maybe become an entrepreneur, which I, never thought I would be, but like kind of do my own thing, help other people tell their story. And it sounded crazy, but by the end of the year, it was like, I'd be crazy not to. And I share a lot of the stories about like basically the whole book is structured as 11 things you need to hear when you're scared to change your life. And that's because it was a coffee conversation with myself of like, well, I can't do that because what if I fail? And like, well, I told everybody I was going to do this. And like, what are people going to think? And like, those sorts of arguments we have with ourselves about making a big change. And so it's still a big deal to me that I left my job, but I can tell you a decade on the other side of that decision, I didn't stay one day too little and one day too much. Like I spent just the right amount of time. I'm so grateful for that experience and the relationships and all that I learned. I use it every day. I trade on it every day. But to everything, there is a season, even Disney. And I just, don't worry. They went from paying me to I pay them now. I just, just keep Disney
Yes.
direct deposit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to check out your book because that sounds like it's going to be so powerful, regardless of what that thing is for you in your life, whether it is a big career change and jumping into entrepreneurship, which I know is the thing for so many women listening.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to dive more into that with the storytelling. But however, I want to, before I forget, you were telling me before we hopped in here live something about a Disney business retreat on a cruise ship. Okay, so
Yes.
what is this magicalness? Fill us in a little bit about that.
Yes. So, a little bit of back history here is one of the things that I have figured out that I need to do in my business is I take the month of December off. So I call it batch December. I started doing this back in 2016 because I had this huge influx of clients and no systems. So I shut everything down and was like, I need to spend some time every year making the business better. And so I have already built all this intentionality of taking this like kind of restful business development time. And then I had this wild hair of idea because that's been so successful for me. Like, well, what else could I do? And I'm like, I love Disney. Could I go to Disney as part of my business? And so originally I had this idea that I was going to, I like to share this part of the story because I think it's really important for everybody here, which is I originally thought the only way I could do that, get away with doing that was to throw a business retreat and sell tickets to it, like host it and do it with other speakers. And so I did all this work. I invited all these people to go, and I quickly found out market research, there was just not enough people that were available that weekend, didn't get seasick, like Disney, like cruises. It was like a Venn diagram that only ended up like one or two people. And the best decision I made was like, you know what? I'm going anyway. So I went with my virtual assistant, who is also a client. I'm a client of hers as well. And so we went and we were like, look, we're going to mastermind. It's a pure mastermind. And we went to Walt Disney World for a night and a day. And I met up with a friend of mine who's a cast member, and she got us into Epcot. And then we went on the Disney Wish for 3 nights. And we're two 6-figure plus business owners, but also toddler moms who don't get a break. And it was just the best. Like, I cannot wait to go back. I was really like an experiment. Like, can we do this? Is it going to be useful? And I just tell people, I'm like, oh my gosh, the ability to not have to take care of people and to just focus on the business. And like, we're literally in line to get on their water slide. And I'm like, what should I charge for this workshop? Like, we're like spitballing stuff. I'm like, you can absolutely do business at Disney, and you absolutely should if you can, justify it. But, Disney's such a big part of my brand and the fun of it all. Like, yeah,
Oh my
let's
gosh, I love that.
make that
You're
happen.
speaking my language.
Yeah.
So, did you actually get work done on the cruise ship?
Yeah. We
'Cause
did.
I don't know
We
that I
did.
would be disciplined enough to do that.
So it was different for me and for Sarah. So Sarah, and Sarah runs a company called Joyfully Organized. So if you're curious about what she does, but Sarah did more batch work than I did, but I think it was really meeting our seasons where we were. So I was in a headspace where I needed a better mindset, and I needed to be really thinking clearly and literally thousands of miles away from home, and like just kind of like not in the muck of the day-to-day stuff. And so I needed strategic time to think and talk through ideas. So that's what we were doing over dinners. I was like running things by her and processing for future goals, especially this year for the business. And Sarah, on the other hand, just never has time to do some of these things she needed to do in her business, like create an onboarding guide for her new team. So she went from like a staff of 1 to she has like 8 people on her team. So she, from the minute we got there to the minute, she's typing it up by the time we're leaving, that she made this whole handbook for new team members while she was there. So it was like a huge win for her. And we both just shared on we were on the private island Castaway Key. We're talking and we're like, this just really filled up our cups, like personally and professionally. So I know the big question is, did you actually work? And it's like, yeah, we did. And I think we literally sat in the ocean and talked about like speaking career and like these things, big ideas that you just never have the time to dive into when you're at
I
home
love that.
and you're not
Yeah,
assisting.
I could see that for sure. The masterminding and the ideation,
Yeah.
when you're on your excursion and dinner and at the pool and all that for sure.
It's also the experience too. So I don't know if you have you heard of a book called Be Our Guest?
I have. Yeah, I have it upstairs. I haven't read it yet though.
It's awesome. So I
Okay.
started reading that even before this experience. And it really, I think being, it's joking. It's like, oh yeah, you went to Disney to write it off, whatever. I'm like, no, if you're really trying to make your business better, going and studying at the feet of Disney, like when you go get immersed, and we went to the parks and we saw the Skyliner and we saw the new cruise ship and like the way they tell stories and the way they take care of their clients and customers, it's like, it is the perfect place to be growing a business that you want to be fun and profitable and rewarding and great for your clients and great for you. So like, it's silly and it sounds silly, but it's actually like such a genius
Oh no,
move,
I
I think.
agree. Like every time I go, especially Epcot and Magic Kingdom for me, I'm always just like in
Yeah.
awe of all the ideas I get for my own business and for, I mean, I know you know this this podcast, and because a lot of my things are Disney themed. I said business.
Business. It's a business.
Business.
Yeah.
It is a business, but Disney themed as well in my business. And I'm like, this customer service, the way everything is always
Yeah.
clean and well taken care of, and they're a step ahead. Like such a great mentor for business, just like all the way around. So I
Yeah.
100%
The
agree. And
immersion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you know this, I'm actually hosting a Disney business retreat this summer. So we
Where are
will
you all
have to
going?
talk.
Yeah.
Orlando. Yeah, we're going to
I mean,
Orlando.
I
I rented a
mean,
house in Orlando and we're going to go to Magic Kingdom a day.
I
But
love it.
the cruise ship definitely sounds freaking awesome. And
It
I
was
am dying
awesome.
to get
It
on the
was
wish.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yes,
was
you're like
incredible.
highly recommend. Okay,
Highly
so
recommend.
let's talk about storytelling and developing your brand and how you're able to use storytelling to do that. So I'm not sure if you have a specific area where it is easiest to start, but where can one start maybe to start developing this and making it a little better, their craft a little better to do this in their business?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you be able to brand the magic of your story. I think that that's the thing that really is going to set you apart. And I think I work with so many people who feel really intimidated by I think what have become the you have tos of our industry, which is like you have to be on social media, you have to social promote. And so getting started with that, I think, is not about what most people teach it is. At least that was my experience. Like I kind of worshiped at the feet of the marketing gurus, tried all the social media advice and burnt the heck out. Like it almost like killed my business in 2016. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to double down on what makes sense. I'm going to double down on the people I already know, and I'm going to embrace the magic of my story. And I came up with a framework for it, which I call Establish Yourself, which is my second book. So it's called Establish Yourself, Brand, Streamline, and Grow Your Greatest Business, AKA not the business everybody's telling you you should have. So what I teach is a framework to help you grow that is not 100% reliant on social media or being a social media marketer or being the queen of self-promotion. It is this establish yourself because it's EST. And so if you follow EST, you can take your service-based business to the next level. So that means passionate and profitable. So that first E, like what does E stand for, is the most important thing and the really where I recommend getting started, which is E, it stands for embrace your story. So this is the branding of it all. Like, what is it that you are greatest at? What do you want to be known for? Like, you don't start with marketing. That's a big part of my working theory is like, we're all doing the wrong thing. We're focused on the marketing, and that's what I call fixating on frosting. It's like we can have a cake that's just cake, but if all we do is care about the frosting, people are going to bite in our cake and realize there's nothing there, right? If they even try it, right? We need to care about what the foundation is and really where we are the best, right? So where are we the greatest experts? And I think part of that, when I say embrace your story, it's akin to like when Brene Brown talks about like owning our stories is the bravest thing we'll ever do. She says something to that effect. And I had to go through this process of imposter syndrome, overcoming it in my business, because after the first few years, I kind of realized I wasn't selling myself. This was kind of the big epiphany I had. I was like not selling myself with confidence because I was like, I don't have the perfect story to do branding. The core of what I do is branding, writing people's messages, creating their website, creating their logo, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't have the textbook background for that. I worked at Disney, yes, but like I kind of self-taught myself a lot of these things. And it took really confidently owning my story and saying, you know what? I may not have the picture perfect resume, but I do have a lot of great things in my story that make me really valuable. And I am not serving anybody by not owning that and not fully embracing it. So that's my advice is like, if you are really wanting to establish yourself, like the next step is not a webinar, a funnel, a great piece of marketing. It is choosing, to embrace who you are and the magic of your own story.
I love that. And I love that that's the title of the second book. It's like, so would you recommend, do your books kind of go in order, or could
They
you
do.
read them? Okay. So we need
They
to
do.
grab
It's
the
one's
first
kind
one
of the
first.
prequel. So
Okay.
Permission to Try is great if you are evaluating kind of changing direction. Maybe you're going to quit a job, you're going to start a business. I cover both of those things. So I talk about the stories of leaving Disney, and then I wrote it 5 years after I left Disney. So you can kind of hear the
Mm,
story of like, well, then what happened and how did the business get started and all that. And then Establish Yourself is kind of the sequel. So if you read Permission to Try and you start a business, or you've started a business, Establish Yourself is really a business book. It comes with a free workbook. It's probably very akin to a lot of what you teach, but it helps you optimize 6 areas of your business, from branding to ops to sales, client experience, relationships, and marketing, with that marketing one being at the very end, because if you optimize all those other things, your marketing is just going to be that much easier, work that much better, and not be this, what I call like, tactic tornado that sucks you
yeah.
down into the black hole of online marketing.
Yeah. So do you help your clients build all of this without relying on social media? Is there like kind of a method to that madness? Or is that
No.
kind of pulled into that last marketing piece?
It's definitely represented. So like I'm not saying that I'm careful not to be like, you can grow a business and never be on social media. It's like, I do think that that's possible, but I don't think that
Mm,
social media is the bad guy here. I just think it's been made out to be the only guy. And it's
yeah.
really not. And I see too many people making these mistakes of like, they're not taking care of their existing clients because they're chasing new ones, for example.
Mm,
And so a
yeah.
lot of what I teach and what I talk about and Establish Yourself is this notion of what I call reverse revenue. And so what most marketers are teaching these days is, I think, really backwards, because it's all about optimizing, taking someone who has never heard of you, a cold lead, and turning them into a client. And that's probably the
Mhm.
hardest thing you can possibly do, right?
Yeah.
Take someone who doesn't
Yeah.
know who you are and establish a relationship with them. And look, if you've got the financial resources and the staff and stuff to invest in the perfect funnel and getting enough people in your funnel that somebody's going to do like the automating that relationship building, or
Mhm.
go the opposite direction and really optimize your business from the people who already know you, the people in your
Mm,
network, your existing clients. Like, how can you be treating your existing clients better? Are you offering them profitable services because you make their experiences better? People refer, right? Like, and we all
right.
know the value of a customer you already have is so much more valuable than the one you have to go chase after.
Yeah.
So that is really what I'm here to say about that. I think social media is really important. I don't think it's everything. And so what to give you the short version of what I teach in the book is, I think it's really important that you have what I would call a consistency container. So you might have heard of it as thought leadership, other kinds of things, some sort of signature content, but I am not a consistent person by nature, and I need a system. And I think so many of my clients, they're like, I need to do social media, but they'll put up a post and it's like agony, and then they don't touch it for 6 months. What I recommend is coming up with some sort of consistency container system, one of which should be email marketing, one of which should be at least one platform on social media. And so, like, what I do is I come up with content pillars. I sort of talk about certain things, right? Different tips, business, that kind of stuff. I batch content and then I have my assistant put it into Smarter Queue, which is one of these like Hootsuite, later these scheduling, batching kind of
I
things. So
haven't
I
heard of
almost
that one.
I
Yeah.
never have to worry about it. I really like Smarter Queue because it lets you set a weekly schedule via category and you can
Ooh.
rerun posts. So
Oh,
you're
cool.
like, 20 posts can run for more than a year if you run them 3 times. So it goes 1 through 20, 1 through 20, 1 through 20, right? So you're not constantly on the content creation train, right?
Oh,
So
that's nice.
I'm all about that. You create something like, are you going to have like, for years I had a talk series called Branding with Annie that I would host once a month. So that gave me something to talk about on social media.
Mm,
To this day, I don't do a newsletter. I do a show called Branding with Friends. And so I have people come
awesome.
on Branding with Friends and we talk about different topics like branding in LinkedIn, branding in SEO. And that helps me have content for my newsletter, get to know more people, grow my audience. Like it kind of double, triple, quadruple dips, but it gives me that social content, right? So
Yep.
I think social is important. It's a credibility builder. Yes, many people build businesses on it, but I come from a world, having worked with hundreds of coaches and consultants who the great vast majority don't use social media and they hate it and they don't like to self promote. So I start with like, hey, why don't you do all these other things first and get those things working? Because
Yeah.
you're not getting any of this other stuff done and you're not growing your business because you think it has to be all about this magic gold rush of social, which doesn't even make sense to you. So it's really speaking to that
Right.
niche versus people who are like, I love social. I totally get it. I'm on it all day. Right.
Right. Well, and I feel like what you are totally speaking to is that person who's like, I'm posting all the time on social media, not seeing results. It's probably
Yes.
because they're missing a lot of those components that you have shared, some of them being the relationships and or not knowing their story, who they're serving, like all those pieces. And they're just posting based off what they've seen other people do, but it doesn't work for them.
A huge problem I see with this, and I have a workshop coming out on this topic, is most people are not selling anything either. So they are just like constantly putting out content and being like, I'm not getting anything. And like, I call that looking for like applause and not action. So it's like, if you are not selling anything, if you're not talking and driving people to talk to you, hey, I've got this program, they're just like, hey, I'm putting out tips and stuff and no one's contacting me for my services. I'm like, that's because you're just entertaining them. And you're also just looking for emotional validation at this point. Like, that's unfortunately what I think a lot of social has become in this. Oh, I need all these likes so I can feel like I should post again. If people aren't liking it, then I'm not posting, right? It's like that's part of why I love that I've batched it. I don't touch much of it, honestly. I don't even think about it except if people are commenting because it's like, oh, it's great. Somebody commented because it can too easily become that like, hey, I'm being vulnerable and like, does anyone like this? And it's like, no, actually the question you should be asking is, what did you want to be sharing about? What's the goal of doing any of this? Are you putting some calls to action in these things? And even, do people know what you do? Like, that's a huge challenge that I see I'm helping the people correct is they think it's a marketing problem. Like, most often when I talk to people, they are really unclear on what they're selling and what they do. When you really talk to them and they're like, well, I don't have any clients. I'm like, well, because you haven't articulated, you don't even know what you're selling. You're so busy marketing that you haven't figured out what the business is. And that's a, classic fixating on frosting.
Yeah, and I love the fixating on frosting. I'm totally gonna use that now
All
because it
food
makes so much
metaphors.
sense. Yeah, yeah, it makes
Mm-hmm.
total sense. I just I just had a birthday too with and we had like this whole thing with the pink frosting too, and it's like, yes, yes, totally works for
Frosting
my
is
brain.
great, right? But if the cake
Yeah,
is no good,
yeah,
it's just going to put you out of business faster.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you delegate in your business? Because you
Yes.
mentioned you're a scheduler. So, can you share some of that? Because I know you're a busy mom too, and
Yes.
a lot of my listeners are also busy moms. So, how can we help streamline this?
Yes, so I am the quintessential person who can do everything in my business, so it took me a long time to learn how to delegate. And I really had to when you'll love this tidbit. I came back from my first maternity leave 2 weeks into the US shutdown for COVID.
Oh no.
So my son is 3. Yeah, I was like, "Oh my gosh, how is this gonna go?" And of course, I was the only breadwinner in my family and still am. And so it really forced me, like I had a virtual assistant who was Sarah, but I really wasn't using her to the extent. And so I talk a lot about this in the book, but the short version of it is I had to learn that just because I can do everything, I shouldn't. And one of the biggest game changers for me with using Sarah was what I call SOS sessions, sorted out with Sarah. So realizing that with my virtual assistant, I did not have to have it all figured out. That if you have a good VA, you can meet with them. And I literally start most of this like, I don't know, like even to this day, like showing up to those meetings and not being perfect the way I need to be or want to be with clients, and going through what's going on and getting her help and thoughts to like prioritize things. And that has really helped me hand more off because I'm going, oh, you can handle that. And oh, I'll just, hey, let's come up with that process and then you can run it with it. Because so often I was the bottleneck to delegating. So that's a way I've used virtual assistant. I use Acuity for scheduling, which I cannot say enough good things. That saves me hours and hours and hours. I use SmarterQ for batching my social media, which has been a delight and also very easy to delegate to my assistant. Trying to think of a couple other things, but those are the biggest things. And I think, for me in that first year, especially of delegating, I remember getting an invoice for Sarah for 40 hours for that month. And I usually about 20 just right now. But that was me correcting. And I remember I was so tired. I had a, 5-month-old at home who wasn't sleeping yet. And I just felt like so grateful when I got that invoice. Cause I was like, you know what? I have made more money having her. And that was 40 hours that needed to happen in this business that I didn't have to do. And that has been, that
100%.
mindset has been huge. And I was like the biggest skeptic. I did not want to hire. I did not want, like if you told me like, oh, you would have a assistant that does 20 hours a month for you. I'm like, oh yeah, she consistently does 20 hours a month. It's a significant investment. She is, not the Fiverr option. And she's incredible. Her team is incredible. And just not having to do it myself. And it's really also challenged me, more than any like app or whatever tool, is to come up with processes. So things like, branding with friends, all I have to do is record an episode and they can do the rest because I built it like a repeatable system with templates. So they follow the, standard operating procedure, SOP, and I don't have to do it. It's incredible.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I started working with a VA was making sure that anything that I did that I didn't have to do, I just like recorded it one time of me doing it
Yes.
and how like my systems, and then saved it in a Google Doc, and I'm like, here's the things. And it's made it
I've done
so
videos
nice.
too. That really helped me as well. Like I heard somebody told me that they were like, oh, I trained my VA just like recording videos. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I had to write all this out. Like I didn't realize I could just like
Yep.
talk it out. So great.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, that's so great. What point in your business did you finally hire a VA? Do you know? Like,
I
was
think it
there
was
a
like
certain?
2017.
Oh, so it was
So it
pretty.
was 4 years in to my business.
Okay.
And it really
Yeah.
I would say 2017 to 2019, Sarah was really only typing up like things that I felt like I could delegate by writing out the process. So she was setting up
Mhm.
home bases for clients and transcribing client interviews for me. So it was like,
Yeah.
I want to say it was 3 or 4 hours. So we went from 3 to 4 hours to 20 plus hours
Love it.
just by literally show permission to show up and not have all the answers and let her take some things off my plate.
My dog is starting to bark. I'm sure you probably hear that.
Is that Pluto or Doug or is it
No,
some
her
sort
name
of
is actually Bella.
There you go.
Sorry, I was like hearing her come down the driveway, and I'm like, I'm going to be unmuted at the exact moment my dog realizes that she's pulling down the driveway. No, her
That's
name
all
is
good.
Bella. Yeah, her name came with her because she's a rescue dog from Puerto Rico. But
Oh,
we like to. She's got a little Disney princess collar on, so she's still representing, of course.
I had no
Um,
doubt.
You're like, I knew it. Okay, so how I like to wrap up all of our podcast interviews, I would love to hear either what you are currently reading, personal development or not, and or a personal development business book that has like really kind of blown your mind or changed something that you were doing.
Personal development business book. Excuse me. So what I'm currently reading is I'm reading Ashley Kirkwood's book, which is called Speak Your Way to Cash. She's really great.
Never
She's a
heard of
former
that.
lawyer. And a lot of what she teaches is stuff that I would teach, and I have seen to be very true about how to price yourself above the market when it comes to being
Mm,
a speaker. I'm also a speaker in my business. And so I was
okay.
literally listening to that at Castaway Key and
Oh, cool.
soaking in what she had to say, which I think, great book for that.
Okay.
something that this is more personal development. So I think a book that's really changed some things for me in the past few years is a book. One, Be Our Guest. I think Be Our Guest is a great, if you're a Disney file and you
Yeah.
got a customer service. But personally, there's a book. Is the title is terrible, which is what is it? Adult children of emotionally immature parents.
Oh, I think I've heard of that before,
So
actually.
my cousin
Was it
told me
good?
about it. Oh my gosh, it was just really, I don't know if people listening, if you're like a younger mom, like you're maybe in your like 30s or 40s, like I think reading when you become a parent, you start to really question how you were parented, right? Like you have to make new decisions, you have to reparent yourself, and it just really helped me to better understand my family and where I come from and what some of those patterns are, with the hope that like I won't repeat them. And I think that that is something that permeates everything I do, not even just business. We're here talking about business, but this is like the stuff that is really going to matter about our lives and our legacy. And that was really eye-opening. So if you have struggled with, I thought I had an idyllic, pretty great childhood. It's not that it taught me I didn't, but it helped me understand some things and has helped me to, and the way I phrase it is like, love my family, but not become them, like not become the things that I've struggled with or that have been tougher for me as a grown up, as a,
Oh my
what I want
gosh,
to
I
be when I
love
grew
that.
up.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. I will have
Yeah.
to we will link all these in the show notes too, guys, so you can check out Annie's books and then also the ones that she recommended. Okay, since you are a Disney lover,
Yes.
um, favorite Disney park? Do you have one?
Oh,
I
that's a
know this is so
hard
hard.
one.
I know, I
That's a
know.
hard one.
You can do a top 2 if you want.
Um, okay, we could do top 2. I would say Magic Kingdom or
Mhm.
Disneyland, because I think that
Oh,
is Disneyland's interesting to me because I used to think it was not that great. And then I
mhm.
worked there, and at the time you got like a silver pass. And so you could go like most days of the year plus 3 people. And so Disney
Oh,
became like my home base. Like I got to go to
yeah,
Disneyland all the time, and it's like
yeah,
whether it's Main Street USA there or in Magic Kingdom, there's that's what Disneyland is a place that Walt actually walked and like had this vision that nobody else had, right? That
yeah,
has endured the test of time, and the company's going through, its 100th anniversary. Disney just had its 50th, and it's like I don't know. There's just no other place where the magic resides. And I think
yeah.
walking down Main Street USA and Disneyland. Okay, well, we'll say it's Disneyland. I'm really surprised to say that, but I love World because it's closer to me. And I grew up
Yeah,
going to the resort's my favorite, Walt Disney World Resort. Like we can get really
uh-huh.
granular here, but Land is like so incredible because he walked
Yeah,
that. Like he didn't get to see Walt Disney World built, right? And so
yeah, yeah, that's
and
true.
you've got the window to his dad that's on the street,
Mm.
the Elias Disney. I don't know if have you seen Saving Mr. Banks?
Yeah, yeah, I loved that movie.
So a lot
It's
of
great.
the sets there were like still there, part of really close to where I worked. They shot on the lot, all of that. But that is, can really connect you back to that kind of thing. So
Mm,
it helped me to I think there's something really magical about that. And there's something really magical about the insane reality that I was once a cast member,
yeah.
and kind of bottling that magic for me. So I think,
Oh, that's so
okay,
fun.
Disneyland, you win.
Disneyland. You're like, "After we've talked this out, the actual answer is
Dang.
Disneyland."
Yeah.
Now you know, now you know.
I love them
Love
all
it.
though. They're all good.
Yeah. Have you been to Disneyland Paris?
I've not, but I've had the
Okay.
wild hair of like, maybe we should do that. Like I kind of want to
Yeah, you
do,
probably
I'm big
should.
on the cruises. I've
Mhm.
just went on my 5th Disney cruise since the cruise line has been around. And I really kind of want
Nice.
to do a Mediterranean cruise or European cruise at some point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that'd be really awesome. So I did my first ever cruise, and it was a Disney cruise at Christmas 2021. And it was just a 4-day, I think. And then we loved it so much that we booked a June 2022, so we just went on it last summer, to Alaska, and it was also Disney. So I'm like, I don't know if I can ever do a cruise line now that's not Disney.
I mean,
I've
why
been
would you?
spoiled.
Like
I
yeah.
know. My dad's always like, "Well, we should try another one," and I'm like, "I don't think we need to."
I'm in enough of these
Like,
Facebook groups for the Disney Cruise Lines, and it's like, yeah,
yeah,
no. Like some
it's
people,
not.
sometimes they say like for older kids or for
Mhm.
adults, but like I'm such a Disney adult. I'm like, just no, I
Yeah,
know what I
same.
like here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm like, "I don't need the casino." I'm like,
Right.
"I don't need all this other these shows that aren't Disney show," like, no. 100%. Well, Thank you so much, Annie, for sharing all of this. Please tell everyone where can they connect with you. Remind us the name of your books again, and everyone, I will make sure that all this is in the show notes. So you can just click the links super easily.
Awesome. Well, the easiest way to find me is at greateststorycreative.com. So that's my website, Greatest Story Creative. And my books are Permission to Try, which you can find at permissiontotry.com, and Establish Yourself, which you can find at howtoestablishyourself.com.
I love that. And I can't wait to grab them. I'm going to go grab both of them tonight so that I can add them to, I'm probably going to read, the customer service one, the Be Our Guest, because
Be
I
Our
have had
Guest.
that.
Yep.
I got that for Christmas and it's literally been sitting next to my bed. I
It's a
need to
good
start
one.
reading it. So
Great
I'm
for
going to
your
do that.
retreat too. I've always thought if I
Yeah. Okay.
were to lead a retreat down there, and I may with clients, like that would be great reading for that.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Making a mental note of that as well. All right, Annie. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, when you are listening to this, please make sure to screenshot it, tag us on social, and we would love to chat with you more. Thank you. Thank you.